He pulled out his hand, and inside it were 3 nickels. He reached out his hand to Jay and said, "Here you go, boys. Go on over to Kirkland's store there and buy yourself some candy." Jay took the 3 nickels and stuffed them into his pocket. Jay, Wes, and Wayne all together said, "Thank you, Uncle Hurvel." They just stood there, so Hurvel asked, "Well, aren't you going to go on over there?" They looked at each other and ran first back toward the chicken house, then reversed course to go in the opposite direction towards Kirkland's. "Let's go get some candy," Jay said reluctantly. He didn't want to hurt his uncle's feelings. It's not every day someone gives you a nickel. So for the sake of good manners and continued future economic gain, he decided they better do what was expected. Right now, that meant hustle over to Kirkland's and blow that nickel on some candy, or at least make it look like it. "Goodbye, Uncle Hurvel," said Jay. The boys all waved as they crossed over the tracks and made a beeline toward the store. Hurvel waved back as he and his little handcar headed back up the tracks and out of sight. As they reached the back of Kirkland's store, Wes and Wayne began to lobby their share of the booty. Jay said, "I'll keep it for now until we come back later. Wes, you sneak back up to the tracks and make sure he's gone." Dutifully, Wes crouched like a bird-hungry cat after its prey and crept up to a point where he could see along the tracks. "He's plumb gone. So what now?" called Wes. Jay said, "Come on, Wayne, let's go back to the box." They caught up to Wes, and the 3 of them crossed back over the tracks. They were careful to look for trains, but paid most of their attention to the direction of Uncle Hurvel's exit. Once they were safely across the tracks, it became a foot race to the chicken house. Catching sight of the chicken house reminded Wayne of what he had noticed in there earlier. He was about to bring it up, but it was difficult to run fast and talk at the same time. As they reached the rear of the chicken house, Wayne realized what he had seen. Standing there by the box, waiting on them to return, was Leon, the chicken house spy. He had apparently been watching them before they left to help Uncle Hurvel. Having regained some of his courage lost earlier in the project, he was anxious to be brought back into the fold. Leon said, "I've been watching it for you. It ain't tried to fly off or nothing." He pointed to the box in an effort to prove his service to the matter of the mysterious box. "Well, Leon, you sure changed your tune. I never figured we'd ever see you, let alone get close to that box," said Jay. "Well," said Leon, I figured since you guys were able to bring that thing all the way back to here without croaking, well then maybe it'll be okay for me to be close to it too." "Well, okay, fellas, what do you think? Should we let Leon back in?" Wes and Wayne had an impromptu conference off to the side. It quickly became a heated discussion. Wes was agreeable to Leon's plea, whereas Wayne was not. Wayne reasoned to rest. "You know how skittish that Leon is. He'll probably mouth off to his brothers, and then we'll have 'em all poking around here." Wes countered with, "Okay, you may be right, but look at it this way. If we don't include him, he will sneak around here and watch our every move anyway. Maybe it's better just to take him back so we can keep an eye on him." Wayne responded to that argument with an alternate solution. He said, or actually whispered, "What if we take him back, but only with the condition that if he messes up again, we boot him out for good?" "Well, that's a good plan," said Wes. "That's a good plan." He turned to Jay and said, "We vote to take him back only if he agrees not to run off again and if he promises he will not tell anybody about our project, especially his brothers." Jay pondered this proposal for a minute as he looked back and forth from Leon, the candidate, to Wes and Wayne, the judges. With one last pontific tug of the chin, Jay raised a single indexed finger aloft and made the pronouncement, "Leon, you're in, but you're on probation." "Huh?" said the perplexed Leon. "I'm on what?" "Probation," said Jay. "It means you are in for now, but you may be right back out again, for good, if you mess up and break one of the conditions." "Oh, I get it," said Leon. "If I mess up, I'll be kicked out of my bunkie." "Now you're getting the picture," said Jay. "What do you say we get busy?" Since analyzing the situation and determining next steps is a natural part of being a leader, Jay began to list off the tasks at hand, itemize the things needed to do them, and make assignments accordingly. Wes and Wayne were okay with taking orders from Jay, but Leon was a little balky about it. Considering the shaky footing on which his participation in the project was based, he soon decided it was just best to do whatever they told him to do. "Here's where we are," said Jay. "We need to get this box off the skids, and we need to open up this box." The three underlings were listening attentively, and they nodded their heads at what each deemed an appropriate interval. This action made them look like a bunch of gophers bobbing up and down at the mouth of their individual gopher hole. Jay ignored the comical image they presented and continued. "Before we open the box, we need to find a good place to secure it." He used the word secure instead of hide for two reasons. First off, it sounded way more important. Secondly, if he had said hide instead of secure, he was sure it would cause Leon to think about it too hard. He might accidentally cave to innocent inquiries as to where he had been off to lately. Jay continued, "Once we secure the box, we can proceed to the opening part. Now, have any of you geniuses got any ideas on where we can secure this box? That will also give us room to work on it in private." No one answered the call, so Jay suggested, "What about the chicken house?" Wayne, immediately seeing faulty thinking in this plan, said, "The only room in there to work is up under the chicken roost. You get up there, and you'll get Bombo, Roundhead, and his friends." Not one to give up on a half-baked idea, Jay suggested, "What if we cover the roost with something?" Wes chimed in, "Yeah, there's an old tarp hanging on the fence in the dog pen. We could use that." Leon said, "Yeah, dog pen." Even though he was not sure of what he just agreed to, Leon needed to participate on some level. Jay's inflection began to sound a little stiff, as though parliamentary procedure was setting in. Accordingly, he said, "Now that we've settled the requirement for a secure location, we can move to the next item, and that is, how should we go about opening the box? Do I hear any ideas on that?" A little time passed, and amazingly it was Leon who spoke up first. "Why don't you just do whatever you did the first time?" Jay admitted, "Well, of course we can do that, but what I meant was, how are we going to do it without knowing what it'll do next?" "Well, Leon's right," said Wes. "We got to do something," said Wayne. Yeah, Wes picked up where Wayne left off. "Yeah, even if it starts to move and get bigger like it did last time, before we should be able to control it inside this here chicken house." "All right then," Jay agreed. "Let's get it off the skids and into the chicken house." "I wished it would just go in there by itself," said Leon. And with that, the box began to tremble, and so did the boys. Leon was an easy mark for a joke, and he recognized it himself as well as anybody. "Okay, who jiggled these skids while I wasn't looking?" He looked directly into each face and knew from their responses that this was not a trick staged for his benefit. They all took another step backwards as the box began to tremble again. The clothesline lashings used by the boys to fasten the box to the skids began to crack and split and disintegrate right before their eyes. All that was left of the rope was a puff of smoke and the lingering odor of burnt string. Once the box was free, it moved. The box rose about an inch or so off the ground. Then it moved, or more correctly, it traveled along, making slow turns at right angles. It went straight into the chicken house doorway and eventually came to rest in the back of the house just under the roost. Just before the box arrived, the roost had been populated to near capacity. It was almost empty now, and the yard outside the chicken house was full of confused and sleepy chickens. Only old Roundhead remained inside the chicken house. Apparently, experiencing an occasional hallucination was nothing new to this chicken. This vision may have been a little more realistic than most, but sure, the feeling would soon pass. It always did. This time it didn't pass. Old Roundhead hopped outside to join the other chickens, whose now numbers included 4 big-footed roosters dressed up in rip-torn shirts and knee-patched overalls.